Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. Boy, it's end of the week, tough week. I got grandkids here. My brain's not working right. Before we get started, a couple things. I just want to say thanks so much for watching Foresight TV. Honestly, it's not a place for everyone. Foresight's not a place for everyone. It is a place for people, leaders who are committed to creating great experiences for residents, team members, and family members. I wish that meant everybody in the industry, but Joe, as you know, there are some people who don't seem to care that much. We do care. This is the place for us to work together to make the industry better. And so I'm just so glad you're joining us. First, I'd love to hear from you about what you're doing to improve the lives of residents and team members and families. If you've got a story, I'd love to talk to you about being a guest on Foresight TV. Secondly, if there are things that you think we ought to be talking about, addressing issues that we're not, we'd love to hear about that. We want to know how we can serve you better. So we produce all kinds of great leadership content in addition to Foresight TV. We've got LinkedIn posts nearly every day. We've got the Foresight Radio podcasts, Tech Tuesday, and other live stream. And the most impactful thing we do is the Foresight website, where we publish new leadership content every day. It is free. It is easy to subscribe to. There's a QR code up on the screen right now. You can scan and put in your information. There's also a link in the chat, so you can sign up for our newsletter. You will get content that will help your organization be better. The last thing before we get into the conversation is I want to remind you that we have just launched a new supplier directory. It is the place to go to find products and services that you need to operate better. And if you are a supplier, we would love to talk to you about being in the directory. We'd love to talk to you about Premium Directory, where you'll get real live help in growing your business. And with that, let's get started. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Joe, welcome. I know this isn't your first time, but it's been a while, and you've got a new adventure you're working on. So let's start by talking a little bit about who you are in this new venture, and then we'll get into the details.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. I'm really happy to be back. It's good to see you again. And actually good to see you not at a conference or, talking to a billion people all at once. I'm Joe Jasmon. I am the CEO and co-founder of American Healthcare Management Group, as well as co-founder of a company called Elevate Senior Living. We've been on this journey for really since 2019. So about the past 5 to 6 years, and really trying to make a significant change in how we go about taking care of our residents in senior living. In a sense, taking a look at it from a very different perspective. And so instead of building a box and putting someone in a box, our theory was, what if we listen to the residents and how they live today before they move into a senior living community, and then create and design something beautiful to allow them to live that life the way that they live now? Instead of, let me move you into my community and let me give you all these ground rules and things you have to do at certain times and places during the day, and eat in this spot, and do this and do that, versus what if I just said, hey, if you want to get up at 11 o'clock and have breakfast at 11:30, you can. What if we just said yes?
So I've got an article, I think it's been published already, where I propositioned that you should just say yes. And that in my case, it was more about somebody offers you or an opportunity, or wants to have a conversation, or has this idea. You should say yes. And see where things go. It doesn't, obviously, you don't want to say yes stupidly. So I love this idea a lot. Go ahead.
The concept really came about with this generation technically doesn't ask for a lot of things. And what we've observed over time is our staff many times is answering no before the resident even has the question out of their mouth. And if you really just paused and waited and listened, you'll realize that 99% of their requests are simple, easy. Yes, we can handle that. The 1% is what we are excited about in the challenges, and we haven't gotten one yet that we couldn't say yes or find a way to get to yes. And so our theory is pretty simple. Say yes, no matter what, with 3 exceptions. You're going to kill them, you're going to hurt them, or you're going to go to jail doing it. In those cases, raise your hand, call us, let us solve the problem and the challenge. That way, you have to give your team permission to say yes, but not once, not twice, but the theory is right now 23 times that we have to reiterate to our team that yes is okay, yes is the answer, and no, you won't get in trouble for saying yes. And then you have to change the culture. And when you realize that, there's a little bit of pressure that comes off their shoulders to say, well, that's actually pretty easy. It's so much easier to say yes than no. There are the caveats, though, is then they have to do something. And so that's the next challenge for sure.
So this is I want to dig into this a little deeper. This is such an interesting idea. I did a keynote a few weeks ago where the venue was in a brand new senior living community that was in fill-up phase. And they're doing really well. It was a beautiful place. It was a nice setting. But I was there for the whole day, and I was doing the closing keynote. So I had another live stream I had to do. And so I went to the front desk and said, hey, I've got this live stream I need to do. Do you have a place that I could go do this at? And it took her talking to 3 people to be able to get to yes. And it was really clear to me as I made this question, it was like, you could almost see the wheels turning in her head, right? Yeah, I know there are places, but I better not just say it's okay to go do that, or I could get in trouble. And you're flipping that.
We're flipping that upside down by really creating a culture across the entire organization. So it's the fundamental model around our Elevate Senior Living communities, and the concept is we are allowing our residents to live the life that they choose to live on their terms, on their time frame. We're also teaching and training and allowing our staff to support that. And once they realize that supporting that sort of just say yes philosophy, the day is so much easier than, oh my gosh, we have to herd everybody together at one time and do this and do that and get all of this done. How are they ever going to get that done? So we created our own chaos. Once you give them the permission 23 times, remember, and then you exhibit it with your own action. So like when we're on the ground in the community and we see a resident asking for something, we will jump up and say yes, and then show them how to do it. So you have to give them permission, you have to teach and train, you have to give them permission 23 times, and then you actually have to exhibit that behavior with yourself. And that really, then they start to catch on and they grab it. The other piece, and it's unique, I think, in senior living, and so I'm going to blow the doors off a little bit today, is we do that within the greater community where our community is. So, you build a community in a town. That town now we invite into our community. And imagine this, very soon, within the next month or two, we will have a not-for-profit fundraiser, huge gala in the courtyard of our community in Clearwater, because we said yes to the community as well. And so it's got to be yes to the residents, yes to the staff, and then yes to the community. Imagine doing something like that in a traditional senior living setting. They can do it. They just have to allow themselves to do it.
Yeah, I love this so much. I've got a good friend of mine here in the Sacramento area where I live, and he lives sort of downtown, closer where the state capitol is. And he's got a local neighborhood coffee shop that he goes to virtually every morning. And he goes and he has coffee or he has breakfast, and there's sort of this breakfast coffee crowd. He's made a bunch of friends and relationships there. And I keep thinking that if somebody did this with the senior living community, it would be almost a Starbucks on steroid, where the community would come in and interact with residents or interact with each other. It could be another profit center for the community. And everybody who walks in and participates and has breakfast there or coffee there or meets there, if they ever need senior living or they know somebody who needs senior living, your community is going to be the one they think about.
100% of the time, every single time we do that. So we are constantly bringing people in from the outside. We partner with the local not-for-profits in the community. For example, we don't have a bus or a car or a van. We partner with a local not-for-profit called Neighborly Care Network. They provide bus service, Uber service, those types of things. We partner with the job training programs where caregivers and cooks and housekeepers and maintenance folks are on site learning and training, but also helping with our residents. It is a very vibrant, free-flowing environment, and for that reason is the more people we can get in to see and enjoy, the more people will talk about us. But secondarily, what a better environment for our residents to live in. It's just like every day, everywhere else. They're part of the community. They're involved as much as they want to be. And they actually have something going on all the time. That isn't just always the standard list, fill in the blank list of activities. These are actually real life experiences versus, yes, everyone loves bingo and we play bingo every single day because they want to, but they want something more. And the only reason that they haven't had something more is, I think, sort of self-imposed restrictions or boundaries we place on ourselves in the industry that we just have to give ourselves permission to say, you don't really have to do that. Yes, you've got to keep them safe. And yes, there's certain things, but you don't have to restrict their lifestyle. You can allow them the ability to do the things that they want to do. And the only way to know that is just to have a conversation with your residents, not just once when you fill out the family portrait, but literally every day have someone have a conversation with them to ask them what they want. What would you like to do today? And there are some residents that will be like, I don't know, what should I do today? No, if you know them well enough, you're like, well, I know that you like cards, bridge is happening, let's go do that. We have this little exercise that we do that's very fun. And I'm sharing it because I don't believe anything we have is proprietary. So you'll know that I'll give it all away. We put the residents' names on sticky notes, stick them up on the wall, and routinely the leaders or staff will pull one. And I'm like, what's Mary's favorite meal? Where did John go to high school? What's so-and-so's favorite football team? And if they don't have the answer, it's not negative. I'm like, put a question mark on that. This week, there's your icebreaker question. Go talk to John and find out who his favorite football team is. And on a regular basis, and we continue to get to know them, it makes it so much easier. It's not rocket science. It's super simple, but that allows them another way to say yes to John. When John's like, I want to watch the Bears on TV. Hopefully we're all Bears fans out there. The answer is yes, John, let's figure out how to turn it on. Or we're going to have to watch a repeat because football season's over, but there's still a yes in there.
That's right. And the more you can do that, what I love I got to tell you, I love the sticky note part of it, because I think that what we sometimes miss is that we don't spend enough time developing friendships with the residents that we care for. It's like they're our customers, but they can be our friends too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it becomes very, very powerful.
I think that we all are in this business for the right reasons, we want to care for people, we want to take care of them. Sometimes we let the business get in the way of the relationship. The business is very important, and don't ever forget that, and counting the numbers, all of that's important. But if you can remember the relationship every time you step into a building, every time you walk into a community, and for all of our staff, every time they come across a resident, if all you do is simply touch them on the shoulder and say, hey, how was your day? You have gone above and beyond what most people would ever do. Most people walk by them and don't even look down if they're sitting on the couch. The simplest things make a big difference. Imagine doing that on a regular basis within your community, within the neighborhoods in your community, and having that consistent dialogue going, the vibrancy of that happening, the joy that's coming out of your residents, the conversations they're having, the faces. What we see then to us, that becomes that we call it the Elevate lifestyle. And that lifestyle is freedom to thrive in an environment that is like at home. So you sleep in your bedroom, you get up in the morning, you go to your living room, kitchen combo and have your coffee on your schedule, not on my schedule. Your schedule is most important, to the point where we eliminated stand-up meetings, because stand-up meetings in the traditional environment are all about you, not about the residents. I care a lot about you, but I want to know what your problems are this morning. I want to know what the plan is for the residents today. How are we interacting? How are we going to make their day better? And so when we put all of this together to sort of attract, and go after the middle market, we knew that we were going to have to be about $1,000 a month less in rent in order to hit that market so they could afford it, and everybody's seen the studies. We don't need to go over that. in reality, so I thought in every market we would be winning the game on price. What I realized very quickly is price is important. We're winning the game each and every day to getting people to move in our community based on lifestyle and the joy in the residents' voices and their expressions and in their hearts when someone walks through and sees, wow, they get to do whatever they want. We don't have a bunch of people sitting around stuffed in a room doing something they don't want to do or not doing anything. It is a free flowing, and at times they are in their neighborhood, they're in another neighborhood, they're in the courtyard. It's an amazing feeling, and we constantly get comments from people coming in and doing tours. It's like they've never seen anything like it before. And that's when we know we've hit the right mark, is because we've given them their life back. I feel like sometimes we've taken it away when we move them in. And my mother has said this to me. My mom's 87. And part of this whole philosophy was driven based upon my experience with her and my co-founder, Bruce Hench's, and Elevate's experience with his mother. Is she's like, I'm never going to move into one of your communities. I'm like, well, Mom, why not? They're beautiful. Because I don't want to move into senior prison. And I'm like, wow, that is bold. Tell me what that means to you. And she says, I get up between 9 and 10, maybe 11 if I want. I want to have a protein shake and a yogurt. And they won't let me do that. And they won't let me go to Publix when I want to go. And they won't take me to this. I'm like, you're right. We put all these restrictions. Breakfast is X and Y. Transportation is only 5 miles, because if you go 5.1 miles, the budget's busted. And all of the things that we've created over time, it's like, why did we do that? It's really not that hard to say yes to, you want to have a yogurt and a protein shake. If you're looking at it from a dollars and cents standpoint, I just saved a bunch of money, because now I'm not having to produce eggs and bacon and biscuits and piling all this food on their plate that sometimes they don't want. And now I have a happy customer. They are so happy. So imagine the behaviors you eliminate by not forcing someone into the box they don't want to go into. And so you take that one more step further and imagine the stress you've just taken off your care staff. We all talk about the struggles and the turnover. What if I could provide you a job as a caregiver for the same rate you're making at another community, but guarantee you that your stress level is going to be almost 70% less, and you're going to have a bunch of hands-on volunteers that are actually training to do that to help you with your day. So instead of being 1 to 8, we might pay 1 to 8, but you're actually staffed 1 to 2, 1 to 4. Who wouldn't take that job?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this so much. I've long now. First question I have to ask is, what levels of senior living are you? Independent living, assisted, memory care, or something else?
In the Elevate model, it's independent, assisted, and memory care.
Okay.
And so assisted living and memory care in the main core building, which is, in a sense, the prototype's a 96-bed AL memory care with 6 neighborhoods, each have 16 private rooms in each neighborhood. They are designed exactly the same. Memory care is not designed different than assisted living, because you shouldn't treat them differently. If you walk through our community, you wouldn't know that you were in a memory care unless you sort of realized someone had a dementia issue. We have a giant courtyard in the middle that's fully secure. So all of our memory care residents, all of our assisted living can enjoy that courtyard. There's no, memory care's back in the back, and there's a little dog run we put back there for you to play in. They have a beautiful, gigantic courtyard to follow, as well as they can go anywhere on campus. And so we have a theory that we took from back in my hospital days when you did the repeat back for medications. If a memory care resident wants to go into out of their neighborhood that is in another memory care neighborhood, let's just say to, we have a coffee shop neighborhood, or we have a bar neighborhood, and we'll have a beer. It's a handoff. You're either escorted or you're handed off. And we utilize technology to make sure we know that they're safe and where they're at. But it's an amazing experience for them now to have freedom for the whole community, not just this little box we put them in and lock them away back in the corner. And our residents are thriving in that environment. We have minimal behaviors. It's interesting to see the joy in that. And, later on, we'll be able to do a good scientific study, because I think we're going to enhance the length of their quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I so want to come visit. So
anytime.
I have to figure that out. So I want to actually. So first, I've got to say, I'm going to save this till the end. You've got a quotable quote that I want to come read back to you, because I love it so much. I'll save that till the wrap up. But You said something very early on when we first started that I want to circle back to, because I think that this is so important. And that you talked about listening to what people wanted. It Reading leadership, market, sales, and marketing books outside the industry over the last couple months, I've been more and more impressed with the realization that in our industry, we have done very little consumer research to figure out how people think about senior living, what it would take to change it. I know that Margaret Wild at Pro Matura does a fair amount of stuff that tends to be very market specific, and I think that's really helpful if you're building new buildings. But the truth of the matter is most people have a very negative perception of senior living, and we need to be doing more research. So I'd be curious sort of how you started by figuring out what people wanted.
We literally had sat in probably 5 or 6 conferences in 2019 with so many people talking about, ad nauseum about the middle market and how we need to do something. And our feeling was that everyone kept saying we as an industry needed to do something, but not me, you, sort of like not in my backyard type of people. And finally, I was looking at the different solutions, and we're going to take an old building and turn it around, or do nothing with it and just label it mid-market. And we said, you know what? If you're going to do it, you have to do it differently. You have to turn the model upside down in a sense and start from scratch from the perspective of your customer. So take old school marketing anywhere, before there was all kinds of the digital stuff. At the end of the day, the products that did the best were the products that solved somebody's problem or brought them great joy, or this food that tasted amazingly good. So all driven off of the consumer's tastes, feels, or wants. And so senior living doesn't do that. It fulfills a need that is out there for a specific period in time. Assisted living, we need the help. Memory care, I have to have the help because something happened. But we forgot about the person. And we forgot about the fact that every single person addresses their aging process differently. And every person that has an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis interacts with things differently, and they have different things that they need. We then said, here's the one approach, and everybody's going to do it. And for the longest time, they were, you've heard the fall on the cruise ship thing, whatever. But if you've ever gone on a cruise, everybody doesn't do the same thing. Everybody does what the heck they want to do. They have all these options, but they do what they want to do. And so we said, both Bruce and I have had experiences with, like I said, with our mothers. We said that those experiences were awful, and we're part of the problem because we are doing it. We followed along with the herd. What if we just listened to our customer, and then we started asking questions to adult children? We're all in that same boat. What are you doing? What did you do? And now, after you did what you did with your mom or your dad, do you feel like you did the right thing? And almost 100% of the time, we say after we did it, we should have done it differently. And the reason we should have done it differently is because we didn't find the place that was best for mom. And I believe that because it didn't exist. And so if we really want to embrace this fastest growing space out there in senior living that's exploding like mad, this sort of middle market, forgotten middle, what if we just ask the question? The simplest version, go back to, the sales 101 my dad taught me when I was younger, the old file cabinet that had a list of all of his customers, and in every file folder wasn't business stuff, it was stuff that about them. You like tennis, you like baseball, you like whatever. What if we just learned that about them, what their favorite food was, and actually then didn't put it in a file, but actually made it part of their day? And that is what totally changed our dynamic on not only how we operated, but how we built the building. We designed the building from the resident's perspective versus the real estate or the architectural perspective. And that took us about 12 to 13 months of fun arguing back and forth, eliminating wasted square footage, shrinking the space down, because we have so much space in our communities, double-loaded corridors, giant dining rooms we only use 3 hours of the day, that we don't need to have and don't need to build. So you got to cut cost in order to make it work in that middle market. So let's build a smarter building, more efficient building. Let's stop wasting money on things we don't need to spend money on, and let's cater to the individual. And so the theory around the middle market, and at least the way we look at it from the Elevate perspective, is I will ramp up faster. I will get to profitability faster, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years faster than the traditional model. And the reason I'll be able to do that is because of rate and lifestyle. And people will say, why am I paying $1,000 or more extra in this community when you have everything that I need, but I actually get to do whatever I want? And by the way, I only got to pay $1,000 a month less. And so if it all doesn't work unless you combine all of those pieces together and be mindful about what does your customer really want. I've never had a person move in or move out of one of my communities, whether they were middle market or high end, because we had triple loaded crown molding. Never, ever in my life. I've never had them move in or out because of a fancy chandelier. So why do we put them there? Who wants that? Historically, I think we were driven by the adult child wants that, or the developer wants that. And all of those at that point were probably true. Today, who really wants that?
Yeah.
The resident doesn't, because they don't care.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting to me is what you said about who really wants the fancy chandelier. I mean, maybe it's the family member, but I actually think it's some interior designer, some architect who said they thought that was expected, and nobody cares. I was at a little conference last week, and there were some architects and interior design people, and the question was asked, what is the stuff that we're putting into buildings that we don't need? And what are the things we're not putting into buildings that we should? Every single person there said the most wasted space in every building is the theater. That you built the room with this slanted seats and these theater style chairs and a big screen, and it hardly gets used at all.
Yeah, hardly ever. We have in our community, we have a theater neighborhood. So it's a normal neighborhood during the day. When we do movie nights, all of our space is flex space. We'll reconfigure, get the popcorn popper going, boom, off we go. Movie nights, shift it back. The uniqueness in that whole design, and I'm glad you mentioned the interior design, because Bruce Henches, who's our co-founder in Elevates with Spellman Brady, they designed the simplest, most beautiful model as you can. And they're geniuses. We use white and off-white with pops of color and a little bit of some carpet spots in the flooring. Most of it is LVT across the board, same style. The pictures throw the pops of color, the furniture throws the pops of color, but everything is standardized throughout. And the differences are what the theme is of the neighborhood. Saved us a ton of dollars. We don't have a bunch of wasteful space as a differing thing. And the other unique thing that is in it, it's interesting, and it's not this big wow thing, but everyone in senior living has problems with the little marks on the wall for wheelchairs and walkers banging into them. We have some columns in the neighborhoods that Grant Warner, our architect, decided that made sense, is he put tile on those with a nice little guard. They don't mark. I mean, when they do, you just wipe it off. And I'm like, what an ingenious thing to think about that is not really costly. They're just like, oh, that solved all kinds of the little marks. I mean, it's those little things that because they were involved in the design from the first day, the engineers, the architects, the interior designers, the operating people, all of them, those things were able to come out on the table. Instead of have an architect do a design and then you just go tweak it, start everyone at the table at the beginning. And I think that makes a big difference.
So I love this. I think that one of the things that does get missed is that these little things like marks and scuffs on walls, you look at them and they're sort of no big deal. They're maybe aesthetic and even not that big. But I will tell you, when I moved my stepfather into senior living, he started in memory care, went into assisted living. And on the door, when they showed me the room, there was a big scuff mark. I'm sure it was furniture or a wheelchair or something. A week later, it was still there. Finally, I think 3 weeks into it, somebody came along with a can of paint. It would have taken them 2 minutes. But what it said to me is they just didn't care enough. Exactly. And I noticed it specifically, but public comes through and they see little things like that. They may not even register, but what goes through their head is shabby. And that's a big problem. And so when you find solutions where you can fix it like that, that is beautiful. We're about out of time, but I want to actually ask you about technology for just a minute. I'd love to hear what you're doing with technology, how you view technology, maybe how you look at AI as part of that.
We currently use a Centrix 360 platform that allows us to track lots of things. We use it for the clinical side, the nurse call system component. We use it for the entertainment. And we're also working with them on a beta to literally do AI to track behaviors and different variations of behaviors in our residents, because AI can attract and identify a 1% change in variation of behavior, where the human eye, we might not see it for a 10 or 20% variation. And that's going to help us just be way ahead of the ball game, if you will, and making sure our residents are safe and cared for in the right way.
Cool. I love that. I think that that you're right, that AI that's one of the best uses of AI is to pick up those weak signals that we as humans can't see and change the behavior that can help us to do early intervention. 100% agree that what we'll start to see is an increasing length of stay span, and that's just and higher quality of life for people, and that's just better for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. Joe, thank you so much. We are out of time here. Great conversation, went super fast. Hang on for just a minute after we're done. Jada, I want to say thank you for producing in the background, and we will see you next week. I'll get to see a lot of you in San Diego at Nick, and so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Thanks so much.